everybody, welcome to this video tutorial. Today we're going to have a look at database normalization, and to help us out we've got a scenario related to bus trips. Here is a bus trip data entry form, and we can imagine that as we fill out all of the fields in the form and when we click submit, we're going to insert a new record into a database. So let's go and imagine what that database might look like. Here are all the fields, and we've already inserted some records. What I want to ask myself is this database in a normal form? Now, what are the goals of putting a database into a normal form? Well, one of the goals is to eliminate data duplication or data redundancy. That's where we're storing the same data in different parts of a database. Okay? So for example, let's say that we're storing the bus driver address here, but we're also storing it in a different place in the database somewhere. So when I go to update Jack's address, I've got to update it here, and I've got to update it in the other place in the database where that information is stored. Okay, now that may lead to an update error if I forget to update those multiple locations where Jack's address is stored, and that leads to data inconsistency. So we want to try to minimize the opportunity for that. And we also want to simplify the querying process as much as possible. And we'll look at some examples of that as we work our way through this tutorial series. So I'm going to ask myself, is this database table in a normal form? And the answer is no, and there are a variety of reasons why. First of all, when I go into this date 1 field here, I can see that the data type of this field is date. This is the date data type. But look at this one here, this cell here, that looks like a string, not a date. So in a normalized database, you can't have mix and match data types in a field. It has to be one data type. Okay. For example, in the aircon field, it looks like we've just got booleans, the boolean data type. In the bus num field, we've just got integers, right? So everything looks okay. The only problem is in this date field here. So I'm going to eliminate that problem by doing that. Okay, so that looks reasonable. I'm going to ask myself again, is the database in a normal form? Still, the answer is no. And another reason is we've got this repeating fields here. Date 1, date 2, maybe date 3. We want to avoid repeating fields in a database table. That makes querying awkward, right? If I want to go and query the database to find a specific date, I'm going to have to go and look in more than one field. It slows down the process. It just makes things a bit awkward. On the 7th of March, bus number 61 is going to take this bus trip. So let's just create a new record for that. Bus number 61 is going to take this trip on the 7th of March. Bingo. Now we can eliminate this unnecessary field from the database. Okay, so no repeating fields. Is the database in a normal form? No, it is still unnormalized, sometimes referred to as zero normal form, 0NF. Why is it still unnormalized? In this cell here, we have more than one value. We don't want that. In a normalized database, we want every cell to be atomic. Okay, I'm just going to write that word down here, a very special word in database design. We want every cell to be atomic, which means the cell can only contain one value. Okay, and if we look through the database table, all of the other cells only contain one value. This is the only problem. Okay, so I'm going to create a new record for this bus number 34, which does the same trip as bus number 57 on the same date. That's fine. Why not? That's possible, right? So let's just get rid of that. Okay, we're getting closer to normalization. We're going from unnormalized to something known as first normal form. That's the first step. And later we're going to ask ourselves, do we need to go into second normal form? And if so, we'll try and make that happen. And when we're in second normal form, we might ask ourselves, can we go into third normal form? And if we can, we'll make it happen. Okay, so we are going to look at these forms as we step through this video series. At the moment, we're just trying to get an unnormalized database into first normal form. Are we there yet? We've got no repeating fields. Every field has a consistent data type. Every cell is atomic. These are the rules for first normal form. We don't have a primary key. Let's try and identify a primary key. Could this be the primary key? No. Remember, the primary key is the field which makes every record in a database unique. So that's what we're trying to identify. And none of these fields will allow us to do that. Now, I'm going to suggest to you that a bus can do one trip per day, and that's all. One trip per day. So could I make a primary key using the bus number field? Let's just take that as the primary key. In combination with the date field. Could we use those two fields together and let them be the primary key? Okay, because we know that any bus can only have one date. For example, bus number 57 can do a trip on the 2nd of March. Yep, that's still unique, right? 57 with this data here, that's a unique record. There's no other record in the table which is going to have bus number 57 traveling on the 2nd of March, right? That's unique. So we can use 2 or more fields to create a primary key. That is what's known as a composite key. So let's do that for this database. It's a primary key, but it's a primary key that uses more than one field in order to establish that uniqueness for each record. Okay. Now, if, for example, bus number 64 was going to do another trip on the 1st of March, if that was possible, 2 trips on the 1st of March, then we couldn't use this composite key, right? Because this, together with this, is no longer unique. So that we wouldn't be able to do it that way. But what I am suggesting to you is, any bus can only make 1 trip per day. Yes, we can use these 2 fields, combine them to make a composite primary key. Okay? Okay, so we've identified a primary key. We have just gone from unnormalized to first normal form. Now, in part 2 of this video, we're going to look at an alternative approach to getting to first normal form from an unnormalized database. But certainly, this is a reasonable solution.